Earlier this week, Alex Jones issued a warning that America is already technically at war with Russia. Well, now we are hearing that same warning coming from a top British general warning of nuclear war with Russia, saying the end of life could be as we know it upon us. This is senior British Army officer General Sir Richard Shirreff, and he warns that NATO faces nuclear war with Russia in Europe, and that America is already technically at war with Russia, of course, now just as echoing these cyber war hearings that we're talking about. So he asserts that the West faces the biggest threat from Russia since the Cold War, and that Putin plans to reestablish Russia's status as one of the world's greatest powers by marching into the Baltic states of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. He's also comparing the way the West policies toward Putin to the appeasement of Hitler. He says Moscow may have already lit the fuse that could lead to the unthinkable nuclear war with Russia in Europe. And as we all know, under Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, an attack on one NATO member country represents an attack on all member countries, meaning the United States would be at war with Russia if Russian troops set foot in Baltic countries. So Owen Schroyer joins me now, and here he's kind of saying, you know, it's not like they're going to just kind of sit back. If this ramps up, Russia's going to release nukes, then the U.S. is going to release some nukes, and it's going to be mutually assured destruction. Well, we can all pray to God that nobody launches a nuke, because that would obviously be disaster. The end of life as we know. Right, as the general said. But, you know, it's amazing. He talks about already being at war. You know, there may not be a physical war going on that people can actually see and experience and react to, but there is obviously a psychological war going on right now. There's obviously a war on reality. There's a war of rhetoric, where who's to blame? If all of this pops off, you know, Russia's going to be pointing fingers at the United States is going to be pointing fingers at Russia, and at the end of it, we lose. The citizens of these countries are the ones that lose. So I would hope that just all of this coming out, people reporting on it, you know, it doesn't really reach the mainstream news like it does here at Infowars.com or Drudge or Breitbart or these other places. But if Americans can actually start to feel the threat of World War III, I think they might actually be more inclined to look at some serious issues moving forward on this election, right, especially when we talk about Clinton, who's poking the Russian bear. Yeah, and we really would like them to sort of tone down the rhetoric if they indeed don't really actually want to take us to war. It seems like they really are pushing for World War III, or is it just more fear-mongering to help Hillary Clinton win the election? Well, it's funny because there's like a double cover-up going here, where they want World War III because that covers up for the crimes that the Clintons have committed, so they can just get away with those crimes. But then on the back end, talking about possibly hacking the election, that is a cover-up in case Trump wins. So they'll blame Russia for hacking if Trump wins. And if we do go to war and it's under the Clinton presidency, then we'll just completely ignore all the crimes of the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton's time in the State Department. And that will be her get-out-of-jail-free card, essentially starting World War III. And we're already seeing it with her rhetoric. Right. And of course, now we have Russia coming out, Putin saying, I don't really know why they're talking like this. This is very dangerous rhetoric coming out of the United States. But honestly, like, how do we know if what he's saying to his own people is just propaganda that he's pushing out? Right, and that's a good point, and that's a fair point to make. So we try to look at this on an even playing field. So let's say that perhaps Putin is just lying about all of this, and let's say that Putin really is trying to interfere with the U.S. elections. Well, okay, I'll tell you what. Why would Vladimir Putin want to interfere with these elections? He's already said, we've already heard from Russia, if Hillary wins, that essentially equals war. Right. So if the Russian hackers are hacking the DNC and exposing the corruption from the Clinton campaign in order to avoid World War III, I would be okay with that. Now, obviously, I'm not okay with Russia hacking our systems. Ultimately, that's probably not good for us. But if they're doing this to expose Democratic corruption and hopefully not get Hillary Clinton in office to avoid World War III, why is that bad? Why are people freaking out over Russia hacking us instead of freaking out over the actual crimes we've seen committed by the Democratic Party? Right. And this is where they get me here. Hillary Clinton said this during the last debate. What's really important about WikiLeaks is that the Russian government has engaged in espionage against Americans. Well, how about
what you've engaged in against Americans? How about what you've engaged in against Haitians? How about what you've engaged in against Libyans? But see, that's what the hacks are exposing. That's why she wants to demonize Russia instead of focusing on what the email leaks are actually exposing.
Right, and Vladimir Putin came out and kind of addressed this directly. Let's take a listen.
Maybe the only new thing is that this was said at such a high level. Not only did the U.S. admit to being involved in this, but they threaten with it. This, of course, is not on par with established standards for international communication. They must be a little nervous. The question is why. My point is, there are many unsolved problems. This is where the well-practiced system of distraction comes into play, to distract the voters from own country's problems. They create an enemy and unite the nation against them. But as I said in a different forum, it is unfortunate that in order to distract from internal problems, relations with Russia are being put into jeopardy, because it is, of course, harmful to international relations as a whole. And it is my hope that after these debates are over, after this challenging period in internal U.S. politics is over, there will be an opportunity to restore Russian-American relations. I'd like to calm everyone down, our American partners and friends. We have no intention of influencing the turn of events in the elections in the United States. Mrs. Clinton has chosen to take up a very aggressive stance against our country, against Russia. But Mr. Trump, on the other hand, calls for cooperation, at least when it comes to the international fight against terrorism. Naturally, we welcome those who would like to cooperate with us. And we consider it wrong, the notion that we always have to be in conflict with each other, thus creating existential threats for each other and for the whole world.
So just like we're hearing again and again, it does not matter about the contents of the emails, all of the corruption and the collusion that has been revealed. It's just that we should all be afraid of the Russians. It's total madness.
Well, and you can see from Putin's body language there and talking about this, he doesn't want to start this. He doesn't attack like we see Hillary Clinton coming out when she starts pointing fingers and blaming Russia. But it is really strange. You know, obviously he's responding to the serious threat of cyber attacks by Joe Biden, who apparently wants to do it secretly, even though he said this on national television. So I don't know what Putin really wants. I don't know what the Russians really want, but from where I'm standing, it feels like the Russians don't want World War III, and it seems like some of our political hacks that have been in power, like John Kerry and Joe Biden, do want World War III. For what reason? I don't know. Maybe they're just crazy.
Yeah, we really don't know to what extremes they'll go to push this narrative. Now, we had Colonel Tony Shaffer on the Alex Jones Show today, and here's what he had to say about the potential for World War III.
I agree with General Dunford. We have to understand, General Dunford being the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, we have to understand a no-fly zone at this point in time would do nothing to help secure the situation and would likely lead to another war. And let's remember that General Dunford, during his confirmation hearings a year and a half ago, said in front of the Senate and got pilloried for it that he felt our largest threat right now globally is not Islamic terror. It's actually the Russians, because they had both the capability to do real damage with nuclear weapons as well as compete with us in the world stage. So his words were, literally by the left kind of, he was basically made into a caricature over that issue. Well, we know that the Russians are expanding and they have clear designs on trying to reinsinuate themselves in places. So, but you have people like Hillary Clinton and others who really, I think, are looking to get us into the war because they are proposing these very antagonistic things, very dangerous things, which would indeed potentially get us into a shooting war with the Russians. And let me be clear for your audience. I don't believe for a minute that we're ready to go to war with Russia. I don't think they want to go to war with us. With that said, we are doing nothing to actually effectively counter their re-expansion into the world as a global superpower. And the way Hillary Clinton's proposing to do it, it would really simply put us in a position where we're not prepared to fight a war that we'd have to fight that would result in, I think, a great deal of bloodshed. So, you know, for those of the kids who are living in their parents' basements right now based on the really bad economy created by President Obama and Hillary Clinton, they would be basically allowed to be trained to be in the military and go fight a war they'd probably die in. So, you know, it's a good way of Hillary using the millennials in a way to get him to go to work, and I don't think it would be a good way to go to work.
Exactly. And then we had a week and a half ago, General Milley, the head of the Army, say this new war will be as big casualty-wise as World War II. I mean, this is just apocalyptic stuff we're hearing.
Right, and General Milley is correct. I mean, I know General Milley, and he is being completely accurate in his comments on the point. So we have to take a step back. Some of these things that are being proposed now may have worked before the Russians came in. Well, it's a completely different situation. And the other thing is this, you know, there's been reports of the offensive in Mosul kicking off, and it is going as well as can be expected. I'm not saying it's going, you know, swimmingly well. There's challenges. We now have 100,000 troops. Most of those are not ours. We're probably limited to at about between 10 and 15,000. Probably just about 15% of that force is U.S. fighting this effort. The Kurds, God bless them, our primary ally, doing a great job. The Iraqis doing a marginal job as they have been, but there is progress being made to move ISIS out of Mosul.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.